second session for Python for data analysis book. The book chapter 2 basically discuss about the chapter 2 and chapter 3, I think. Yeah, chapter 2 and chapter 3, they basically discuss about the Python basics, just discussing some of the basic stuff before they go into discussing chapter 4, NumPy and Pandas. So we will see the chapter 2 and 3 briefly to see what we can learn from it. So as you see that the book is for Python for data analysis, so there are many things that are not covered for Python, and he recommended these books if we want to learn more. But also one thing I want to let us understand before we move on is using terminal. A lot of other people don't know how to use terminal. Can you see my terminal? Dries, can you see my terminal? Dries, can you see my terminal?
Yes, I can, yeah.
My terminal, right?
Yes.
Okay, right. So, okay, so I decided to just go through this session because of some of our people don't know how to use terminal, and also they have some, we will be seeing some stuff regarding the terminal. So sometimes you will be seeing something like CLI, which is command line interface. So command line interface allow us to use text to actually move through our computer rather than using GUI like click and stuff like this we are clicking. So using terminal, which is this, is the most efficient way in it at some high level to work with, to move through your computer. But there are some issues with Windows. So Windows does not actually have built-in better way to work with terminal, but one of the best way to, today, one of the best way is using what is called Windows Subsystem for Linux. Yeah, so if you don't have Windows Subsystem for Linux, I put a link here. You can go and install it, and I even put some WSL Windows. So if we look at this, this is kind of stuff that allows you to have like a Linux version in your computer. So try to install this WSL so that you can see how better to work with the commands. And it is, what are you using? Is it, are you using PowerShell or Git Bash or WSL in your window, or you are using Linux? Saminu, I know you installed WSL, right? Saminu?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have the WSL.
Okay, what about Zaradin? Do you have the WSL?
No, sir.
Okay. So Zaradin.
But I will install it later. I will later.
Okay. Okay. So one of the best way to work with terminal is to, in Windows, if you are working on Windows, then I would strongly advise you install WSL. And these are some of the tutorial you see here, the video tutorial I linked here that explain well how you can work with WSL. But if you are using my Mac OS or Linux, then because they are Linux based, then you have everything to work on. You don't need to install everything. But if you are using Windows, you need to install those things. Now, before we move on, I would like us to discuss some stuff regarding to Linux. So when you install WSL, there are many commands you can do on terminal. So for example, here, who am I? Who am I? This command, who am I? Yep. So for example, this command allows you to see who is the administrator of this computer, right? But if you are using Windows, you need to go to whatsoever, system administrator, click, you know, you need to follow all those process, click whatsoever and see who is the administrator. But using a command, you can see it is faster and you can move on to your you can move on to the everywhere you need to go. So it is one of these things we should know. I would like also to look at some of the commands. So if you don't know, we will have a separate session to discuss command line, but today we'll just see some brief command. Now we have a command called pwd. It means print working directory. So you know, if you want to document, if you want to go to document in your computer, you need to click and go to document, right? But for example here, I can say print working directory. This is in my root directory. Now, if I want to go to separate maybe document, I can say CD means change directory. CD means change directory. So you can see here it's telling me move to separate directory. I have document. Can you see when I say document desktop? I say desktop. Now I can tap enter. So you can see here now I'm inside desktop, right? So I'm inside desktop. So I want to look at what is inside desktop. So I can use what is called ls, means list whatsoever in the current directory. So when I say ls, this will list everything inside my desktop. So if I can move back to, so you can see here, I have another folder called reinforcement lining. Then I can use cd reinforcement lining like this. I can go inside the reinforcement line. I can tap enter. Now I am inside the folder reinforcement line. I can say pwd print working directory. You can see that I'm inside the folder working directory. But one thing you may notice, so what about if you want to go back to the previous folder? I want to go back to the desktop. So you can use this cd. Can you see cd? If you type dot, it means it will take you to parent directory. So reinforcement lining is a folder under desktop. When I put cd dot, I put enter, then this takes me back to my previous directory, which is desktop. So you can see here, I can say ls list whatsoever in this directory. So ls means list. So you can see I have this, right? But what you should notice is that if I want to go to another directory, cd, something is popping up here. This is not something built in your directory. So I install some plugin that allows me to move into my Linux command. So there is something called fig. Yeah, so fig. So this is something called fig, fig terminal, fig. So if you see this one is called fig. So this allows you, instead of, for example, it allows you to, as you type, it will be showing predicting. Can you see that it's predicting the next thing you want to do? So this is something that is, can you see that you can, it makes terminal more easier, because the built-in terminal is not user friendly and it does not do any suggestion, but this fig actually allows me to do that. But the bad news is that this does not work on Windows as well as Linux. It only works on Mac, but they are working in the next couple of days or months to be working on Linux. Yeah, so this is, we have seen now two commands. The first one is pw, means print working directory, right? The next, the other one is ls, means list whatsoever in the current directory. The other one is cd, means change directory, move to another directory. So here is suggesting to move into reinforcement lining directory, because as you can see, I have reinforcement lining directly. If you are working on your computer, you may not see, you may see it may not be suggesting to you. So this is because I insert something. So when I say this, I enter here, right? So these are some of the command I want to also understand. Let me see the other one. I have mkd. So there is another one, mkd. So this means make directory. MK, can you see that? So for example here, I want to, I'm inside my, let me go back to desktop, cd dash. Now I'm inside my desktop directory, right? I'm inside desktop. Now, if I want to create a new directory inside desktop, I can use mkdir, means make directory. So you see in your computer, for you to create directory, what you do is you right click and type create directory, then it create directory. But with a simple command mkdir, you can create directory. You can see here, make mkdir reods. So this create directory in the current desktop directory. So let me list ls So we can see RODS. Can you see RODS? It means it create RODS. So I can go into the RODS, CDS, RODS. Can you see that? Now I can enter, right? So you can see now I'm inside RODS. Can you see RODS? I can say, okay, what is inside RODS? LS. You can see empty. It means RODS is empty inside RODS, right? But since I'm inside RODS, I need to create maybe a file. So you can use a command called touch, right? I can say ariwa.txt. So what touch command does? So touch command create a file. So now I create a file inside RODS directory. So I can say what is inside ROLS. Now can you see now I have ariwa.txt. Can you see I have ariwa.txt? So these are some of the command we will be using. This is just to there is rm. So rm. So here rm means remove file. So here I had rm. I want to remove ariwa.txt. I can say ariwa.txt, right? So let me see this. ls, what is inside the current directory? Inside my current directory, I have ariwa.txt, but I want to remove this file. I can say remove ariwa.txt and type enter. Yes, remove it is asking me yes. So can you see now remove? So you can see now there is nothing inside the ariwa.txt, right? Ariwa RDS. So these are some of the stuff you need to know, but just introducing them, we'll discuss more of them. You can see touch is to create a file. That is a cat. So let me show us like this. Touch ariwa.txt to create a file, ariwa.txt. Now let me see ls. I have a file called ariwa.txt, but there is a function called cat. So cat, it means it output whatsoever inside the file. So because nothing inside ariwa.txt, we are not seeing anything. So we have a cat, a function that outputs. You can see, yeah, we have more. So there are a lot of stuff. We will do a particular session to discuss how command line works. But this is just to introduce you to see how some stuff work. I also introduced you yesterday because like remove. When I want to remove, so here, for example, what about now? I'm inside the ariwa.ds, but what if I want to create another folder inside the ariwa.ds? So I can say make dr create ariwa.ds2, right? Now I create another folder inside. Let me see ls. So you can see I have ariwa.ds is a folder, ariwa.txt is a file. Now how can I remove file? To remove a file, you just need to do this, remove this. But can you remove a folder like with this? So let me show you this ariwa ds2. Can you see? Remove ariwa is a directory. This is telling you that rm cannot remove directory. rm can only remove a file. But how can you remove a directory? So there are a lot of commands that you can use to remove like directory and other stuff. So for you to do that, there is some kind of TLDR, this one, RM. So this one will show you several commands that are actually available with RM. So you can see TLDR, RM, will show you recursively remove a directory and all it is subdirectory. So for you to remove a directory, you need to put rm minus r. Can you see that? And rmo minus rf. So let me show you the difference between the two. So what I'm saying is that this CLDR is a command that can be used to show health for a particular command. So by default, Linux, we use man, rm, man. So if you type man, can you see the help for the man? So the man is not that kind helpful. It is somehow cumbersome. So for you to see any help for any stuff, you need to use man. But as I said, there is the beta way now is to use the beta way is now to use the what I said, to use TLDR. Also, this TLDR I told you is not inbuilt in your terminal. You need to install it, TLDR, GitHub. You need to install it, which I showed yesterday. Using this one, right? TLDR, right? So using this one, when you install this, you can see this is the cheat sheet for many packages, TLDR pages. It's just collaborative cheat sheet that you can use to actually see some help for a particular command in Linux. So yeah, so that is about some stuff that I want to introduce. Any question before we start doing our Python? Yeah. So here I introduce, yeah. So sometimes also, for example, you may see like my terminal. You can see my terminal looks somehow better than your own, right? Maybe your own, you see that it is somehow black. Everything that is not, you can see my own is customized, right? So there is something called Oh My ZHS, or that you may like, Oh My ZSH. You may like this one. So this Oh My ZHS is one of the large communities. So with all my ZHLs, you can, so if we go to all my ZSH here, so you can see all my ZSH, and this you can see how many people using it, right? So this is way that allows you to customize your shell so that it looks better. Yeah, I can share this one as well so that you can see it. You can see the Oh My ZSH. So yeah, so this is Oh My ZSH. You can see this is how your terminal will look if you install Oh My ZSH. So it will look like this, and yeah, it looks somehow better. So that is a terminal. What I want to introduce. So this is something that I just want to talk. That is not part of the book, but we should introduce. Look at it. Yeah. So any question before we continue? Simon, any question?
Yeah, I installed on TLDR. No? So I tried to say TLDR RM, and then it's giving me error. I don't know, maybe.
Okay, you installed.
I have to.
You installed the TLDR?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
From the command prompt.
How do you install? Okay, so for you to install TLDR, this is it, right?
I use one sudo apt or what?
No. This is how you install it. Look at it. This is how you install. So for you to install, I showed yesterday, you can use pip. So you can use pip to install it. Kaga abin da nake sharing, pip install TLDR. Kaga ni maza? So you can install it using this. Yeah. Okay. Right. So any question before we continue? Any question? Right. So let's look at the Python interpreter. So what this is telling us is that let's quickly go on. We already know this, but we shouldn't. So we know for us to run Python, we can run Python in different ways. For example, we can run Python through its native interpreter. So number one is native interpreter. For us to run Python in native, we just need to type Python in terminal. So this takes us to a terminal where we can use Python. So I can say 1 + 1. This give me, so I can import NumPy. Right, so here I am using Python, but this is people don't use much now the native interpreter for the Python, so we can go out from here by typing exit or Control-D. Now here we are inside, but you can use what is called enhanced Python interpreter, which is called Ipython. So for me to use Ipython, I can just type Ipython. Now when I type Ipython, it will take me to different environment, which is not Python environment, Python interpreter. So you can see here I can use 1 + 1, 2, right? 3 + 5, 8. So this is called Ipython. You can run Python in this, right? So this is called Ipython, and this is called Python interpreter. So Ipython is enhanced Python environment that can be used to do a lot of other things that are not available in built-in native Python interpreter. But one thing we should know is that we can also run Python files if from either of the two. So let me show something. Now we have seen how we can just run something in Ipython. Let me increase this. All right. So let me exit as well. So we can also run Python scripts. Now we see how we can run Python in the interpreter and also Ipython, but we can also run a Python script. Let me go to document, VS Code, Python book. So now I'm inside my a folder called Python book. Now let me look ls, show me what is in current this directory, ls, show me. So you can see here inside ls, I have a script called add.py, right? Add.py. Let me say cut add.py. So as I showed you before, cut means it show the content of a file. You can see the content of inside the cut is what? Inside the add is print 1+1. Abunda kawai yake cikin wannan py function. It means it is adding two numbers, 1+1. So now assume we want to run this Python script in Python. So what you can do is just type this Python. Then you need to call the name of the Python script you want to run. So we have the Python script we have is add. So I need to do this. Then when I run this, then whatsoever inside this Python script will be executed. You see what is inside, as I said, is let me show here. This is the Python. This is why this add. Yep. So you can see this is what is inside that. Is only print 1+1. You can see print 1. That is what. So how can I execute or run Python file? So for you to execute Python file is to use a keyword Python and provide the name of the file. Then yeah, so that is how we can run Python file. Yeah. So any question? This is just a basic we said we want to work on. So one thing we should also know that for we to run a Python script, that file that we want to run must be inside. Okay, not must. It should be inside the current directory. So you can see here I'm inside Python data book, and the file add Python is inside this folder. So let me look ls print what is inside this. So you can see this Python add.py is inside this current directory. What about if I move outside this directory, cd.this? So you can see here I move outside the folder py data book. I'm inside my mem folder called VS Code. Now when I try to run Python add, I try to run that file. When I try to run, it will give me an error because the Python file, this file that I want to execute is not inside the BS inside this one. So what I'm trying to say that if you want to run a file, it must, the simplest way is put that file inside the folder you are currently having. So let me move to my folder Python book. Now I'm inside this Python book. So what is inside the Python book? I want to see ls. So you can see I have this. So if I run then this will run it, right? But you can also run a Python file even if you are not in current directory, but you need to reference the folder. So what I can say this, but add is not here, add is not inside. So I need to provide the path. So I can say Python or the py data, right? So I need to provide the path and what is inside. So you can see here, I say, okay, run py add.py, but add.py is inside this stuff. So you need to provide the explicit path that you want. So when I run this, so you can see it run it, right? It runs the add path. So these are some things you can run Python. So we now see that we can run Python using Python interpreter. We can run Python using Ipython, and now we can run Python file using the keyword Python. But yeah, so but lastly, we are now working on how we can actually run Py in Jupyter. So Jupyter at the backbone, Jupyter is working with what is called canal. So here is we are selecting the canal. Here in our Jupyter, here we are selecting the canal. So when you this is a canal. So here I select my canal I want to work on is a data science canal, which I install Python in it. So that is something that I want to introduce us to about Python interpreter and how we can run Python files. Any question before we move on? Any question? Right. So also, one of you are executing Python. So for example, here, whenever you are running a Python script, one way to just cut the running execution of the file is to use Ctrl+C. So this is all explained in the book, Ipython Basics. So let's look at Ipython Basics, how we can use the Jupyter notebook. So we already know that okay, so we already know that this is Jupyter. We can create a cell, but this is a list that we created. But now when you create object in Jupyter or in Ipython, you can access method and other stuff related to that object using dot. So here you can see here we have what A. So when I have dot here, then dot will, you can see here, I have object A, I put dot. Now you can see here, this will list some method that are actually related to the object list. So you can see some of the method here we have, like, for example, you can see here we have append method. We have add method here. Oh, so let me say append. So here append method is actually add some stuff to your list. So here I can say append. So here you can see I have A, say append, add 2. So when I call A now, what will happen is that I add. So here when I call A, it means I add 2 to the list. So you can see 2 is added to the end of the list, right? Append. So now, how can you have that feature? You need to install what is called, I think you already installed it, Python Intellisense. So what is actually doing that is what we call Intellisense. If you have not installed this extension in VS Code, you can install it. You can see Microsoft Python. So now when we install this, it gives us this kind of Intellisense feature where the moment you have your object here and you put like tab, in Jupyter, in normal Jupyter, if you are not using Intellisense here, you need to put what we call tab. You need to put tab. So when you press tab, it will show you some of the stuff related to that. But also, you can see here when I let me run this one again. When I run this, my object is A. Now when I say okay, A dot. Yep. So A dot, you can see here, add element to the set. Can you see even it is explaining what it's doing? Append, what append is doing. Let's go. Can you see add an element at the end of the list, right? So this is using Intellisense. So but you can see here is just listening public method and stuff like that. So if you want to look at only the private ones, you can start from here when you say dot a dot, and we can put something like this. So this one will try to list only the private method or whatsoever for that object. So this is something we should know. Right, so there is something called introspection also in Python, which, for example, here we have a list, which is A. Now we can use comma, right, comma here. And now this, what will this one do is that it will tell you or shows you the detail about the objects. So you can see here, this tell you this is a list and it contains how many elements. So basically, this is what this does. So for example, you create an object previously and you want to see, or you create it somewhere else and you want to see the detail about the object, you can use a single comma. But also we can use 2 commas. So for example, this is a function we created. This function is called add numbers, right? And you can see what it's doing is adding numbers, right? Return A plus B, and this is called docstring. We all know docstring, right? Docstring is basically some information that tells more about your function. So now I can use this double comma question mark to show me the code. So let's look at this. So you can see this one using 2 question mark. I was saying comma before. Using 2 question mark, it show you even the code for a particular function or method. You can see it show you the method and everything. So these are some handy tools that we can use while we are working on Jupyter. So that is introspection, just trying to see some stuff about your object. So you can see using 2 question mark will show you the function source code. Using question mark before a variable will display some general information about that. Okay.
So is this a feature of Jupyter or of Python?
So this is a Jupyter feature for Ipython. So Jupyter basically at the back of Jupyter is Ipython. At the backbone of Jupyter, this Jupyter you are working on, Jupyter is powered by Ipython. So that is why we can do. So you can do this one in Jupyter, in Ipython. You can do this like this one in Ipython. So, but you cannot do this in Python interpreter. So that's why we said Ipython is enhanced Python interpreter. So it has a lot of other stuff that you can use that is not available in your default Python interpreter. Bangani, do you want to add something or what?
No?
You want to add anything on that?
No, I just want to seek clarification.
Okay.
You've clarified already.
Yeah, so it is a future for Ipython, but because Jupyter is powered by Ipython, the backbone, so it's basically using everything of Ipython. Yeah. So magic command. So I have already shown us some kind of command like pw directly that you see pwd. Pwd is basically showing list what the current directory. You can see this is the current, but you can run all those commands. They are called magic command. So they are prefaced with this what me ake kiran wannan sign din ne? What is this sign called? Who can help me?
It's percentage sign.
Okay, percentage is okay, percentage. So these are called magic commands. So you can run those commands that all the commands that you run on terminal, you can run them on Ipython or Jupyter, but you must preface them. So let me run this one, which folder currently I am in. So it will show me. So you can see I'm inside PyData. So this is the directory I'm in. You can see this is my PyData book, and this is the directory. So this is called magic command. But nowadays, the magic command are automatically enabled in Jupyter, in Ipython. So I can just type pwd without the magic command. Let me run this. So you see here, I didn't actually preface it with this percentage sign, but it will work. So there is what is called, I forget this thing. So you can disable it or enable it. That is what is called auto magic. So auto magic is, I forget it actually, but let's see. Auto magic command, auto magic Ipython command. Oh, see me where Ipython, ipy. So auto magic is automatically enabled. So yeah, auto magic. I think it's called auto magic, right? Yeah. Yeah, so auto magic, yeah, this one. So you can turn it all off. So you can see here without putting the what do you call this? Here it still shows me this one, right? So this is possible because of what we call auto magic. So this auto magic, you can enable it, you can turn it on, or you can turn it off. So when I run this, so auto magic is off. So now when auto magic is off, when I put pwd and say, okay, show me the current directory. So it means by default, auto magic is on. By default, auto magic is on. So when I run this auto magic, now here you can see it disable it, but so I must use this stuff, right? I must use this thing to actually be able to do that. But by default, auto magic is true. Yeah. Okay, so this is some of these are called. There are a lot of auto magic command in Python. So for example, this is time it. So this will try to time the execution of particular code. So this is trying to executing this showing the time it takes to run this code. So these are called magic command, and there are a lot of them. So if you want to know them, so we can have magic command. Yeah, so you can see a lot of them, magic command. Yeah, so there are a lot of them. You can try to search for them. Yeah, so that is how we what magic commands are. Any question before we continue? Malama Murja, kin gane magic command?
Hello?
Kin gane magic command?
Ai da ke ba fara lecture da ni ba.
Ah. Okay, yeah. So that's a problem. So that is where we have magic command. So magic command, what they are doing is, just to reiterate, is this. So for example, I have this is terminal, and we can run some command. For example, I say ls, it shows you what is inside your current directory. Now, if you want to run these commands inside Jupyter, then you must preface this one with this. You must say ls. So this command they can use here. So when I have this, I can. So you can see it shows me the current file inside the current directory. I have chapters, many chapters, it shows me. So this kind of stuff, they are called magic command. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. So there are many other things. So yeah, here is matplotlib. Let me go on. Yeah, we'll discuss this on matplotlib when we come to the next chapter. So here we have Python language basics. Here what we are saying is Python uses what we call indentation. Here, if we look at this one here, we have a file, a list called array. And here we are trying to move through the list, right? So here, as you can see, we have this, and everything that comes after this column must be indented, right? So how much indentation should you do? Is it one indentation? Is it okay? Let's run it and see whether this is okay. So you can see it's okay, but by default, when you are using this one, it creates 4 indentations. So this is somehow the widely used for indentation style. So we already know this in our previous stuff, but we are just revising for other people that are not here. So multiline statement. We have another thing called multiline statement. So if you look at this one here, we can actually assign multiple values to A, B, C, but you can do what is called multiline statement, that inside one line, you can assign them by separated by commas. So you can see here we have A equals 5. I use this semicolon. Then this is called multiline statement, and we should know how it works in Python. The next thing is Python, everything is object in Python. So everything in Python is object. Yeah. So what does that mean? So even string, numbers, everything, function, class, module, everything in Python is object. Let's see what this means. Okay, I will explain this one later, but let's look at this one. This is called function and object method call. Now here you can see here, this is a way to create a function in Python. For us to create a function is we use a keyword and the name of the function, and we have the argument inside, and we put everything that the function does in this one here. So here we have a function called name, and what function name does is basically is adding 2 numbers. Yeah, so when we run this one, it will run 2 numbers for us. We are just brushing. If you have questions, just ask me, because we are, I believe all of us know this, but we are, for the sake of those that they have, their Python is rusty. So that is why we are using this chapter. We already know a lot about this. So this is how we can call a function. When we define a function, we use a keyword def and name of the function, and now we do this. Then we have a method call. So here, for example, I have an object, a list. I create a list is 1, 2, 3, 4. But one thing we should know is that when you have an object in Python, each object in Python has a method and attribute attached to it. And one way to attach those method and attribute attached to any object of the Python is using what we call dot notation. It's using dot notation. So here we have a list 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 4. But what about if you want to add something inside the list? Then what you can do is use dot notation. So here, as you said, a dot. So this is called dot notation. You will have access to many method or attribute associated with that object. Now A is object of type list. So here we can go on here. There are many methods. So for example, here you can see one of the method here. You can see there is append or copy or count, right? There is remove, there is pop, there is count. Yeah, so one of the one we see is, for example, append method. We want to add something to the list. So when I have append, I run it here. This means that when I want to call A, now I add something inside it. I can say, okay, what is A now? So no. Okay, so this is taking time, Tron. Okay, you give me an error, right? Okay, so you can see here we append 2, right? We add 2 into the list, right? But what is this append? This append is a method for object list only. What about you create, for example, a tuple? Let's say I have a tuple. A is equals to 1, 3, 4. Can you see that? So here you can see this is a tuple, right? This is a tuple, and now I said, okay, top A is equals to 1, 3, 4. Now, can I add 6 into this tuple? When I run this, let's see what will happen. You can see an error happens, right? This means that every object you create in Python has a list of method and attribute associated with it. It means you cannot use the method append to add to the list, to the tuple, because tuple is non-mutable. So that is something that we should know, that there are a lot of other stuff. So this is another stuff. For example, here I have object. I create object B, which is a string, Kaduna. You can see here I have an object called Kaduna. I created it. Now B is object. Why I say is object? Because everything in Python you create is object, anything. Even if I say A equals to 9, then A is an object. Object of what type? Of integer. When I say B equals to Kaduna, this means that B is object. But which object? Object of type string, right? Object of type string. Now, since B here is of type string, it means it has different method associated with it. Now, when I say B dot, now I may be interested to see, you can see append this one will not be stuff to do that. Let me see, run this. I say maybe you want to, no, let me just use what is, okay. So here I have the B object and I have this. When I say B dot, I want to maybe capitalize everything inside this. So we have many methods. If we scroll, I want to show you from here. Okay, I want to just use this one. So here you can see here we have many methods associated with the string object. We have from capitalize, center, count. Can you see there many of them? Can you see lowest 3, major? You can see remove surface. All these are methods associated with string. Can you see the upper? So what is upper? So upper, or let me say title or upper. So when I have upper here, this method, you can see I have Kaduna. Now, no, when I say upper, this means it will change everything to uppercase later. This means that upper is a method associated with object of type string. I can have, for example, I call another method p dot. I can say maybe capitalized, or it's already capitalized. So there are many methods, and each one you see, each method you can see, there is information about what it does. So here, for example, is lower. We can see run this. So let me run this and you see what will happen. Is lower. So this means that B lower because B is capital, right? Is lower is a function that act on the object trying to see if it is lowercase, it will say true, but this is not a lowercase. That is why it is false. So there are a lot of function, method and attribute associated with each object, and we can know all those things with practice and as time goes on. Any question before we move on? Any question? Any question? Okay, if there's no question, this is also what we call dictionary, right? This is dictionary. This is how we create dictionary. We have an object, we assign a value, right? But now we have a function called dir that will show us everything that is associated with this object C. So when we run this another way, that using dot for you to see function and method associated with your. So you can see here, dir, can you see that it's showing we have pop item, we have set tuple. So you can see this is the same as the way I using dot here to assign it's the same as here. I say C dot. It's the same as it, all these things you see, it's the same as you using this dir, but here we are using a better way to assess them. But here you can see when we use dir, it shows us some private stuff that are related to this object. But here is if we want to see only the method that are associated with the object, here is just a method that I put here that remove everything here at the top and show us the remainder, because here you can see that is this dot, it means it truncate a lot of stuff. So this method is just like directly plus just a function that will just a function. I want to remove everything here which are private, just to show us this. So when we run this using this function, just is removing it, just going for X in this, if not, if be parad on and abandoned by returning it means it will return only this ones here. So, but this is not something inbuilt with the Python. It's just a function that I write here to just show us these functions here. So you can see all of this. Yeah. So these are method and or function associated with what? With dictionary, with a dictionary, right? Because C is a dictionary. So these are some of the stuff we already know. And so, for example, pop items is one of the Python dictionary that will pop the top item. Okay, any question before we continue? Any question? Any question? Okay, so if there's no question, let's go on. So this is something very important that we'll be using, how we can create a module and import it. So what is a module? So in Python, there is something called module. So here you can see here I have a file that I created, and I call this file called some module. Can you see some module.py, some module.py? Now what I have inside this file is just I declare a variable pi, I create a function called addition, I create a function called mult, and now set this file with .py. Now, when I create anything in Python with .py and save it, this is called a module. Nothing much. A module is just a Python file, just a file with the .py extension with some code inside. It's just called a module. Now, what is module? So sometimes we don't need to write everything in our code. We can divide our code in some subsections. So we may have a module that do addition. We may have a module that do multiplication. Then we can create separate module that does a particular task and do that. Now, if we want to create, do that in our program, we can import the module. So you can see the name I saved this module is some module.py, right? So assume I want to use this function addition and multiplication inside my program. How can I do that? So simply for you to do that, you need to use import keyword. So import some module. This means that when you say import some module, you now import all this stuff. Important into your program. So it now means when I say import module, I import it. Now, if I want to use this function addition, if I want to use this function addition, what I need to do is that the moment you say import module, then you say some mod, then you say, let me remove this one here as well. So for you to access any function or anything inside this module, you need to put the name of the module. So how can we do that? I import it here, right? Import some module. Now, before I access function inside the module, I need to put this some module. Then I say dot addition. So when I run this, I have a 5. Can you see it does addition? You see the inside the module addition inside this function. What it does, it just add 2 numbers. X plus X is 10, right? Now I want to work with that. So for me, you can see I just import some module. Some module is the name of the module. But before you do anything, any function inside, you need to do this. So this is it. But this is one way to import module, right? There is another way. The second way is this. If I don't want to use this approach, you can use this. You can say from some module, import addition. So it means here I'm importing the function name directly from the module. So I say from some module, import this. So this means that I don't need to use some module dot. You can use your function directly. So here you can see my function name is addition. I can use this function directly. So I can just call it here. So here you can see I have my from some module import addition. When I run this function, it will automatically run this. Can you see it does this? This is the second way. Or the third way, because here addition is something like I can use this from some module, import addition as add. What this is that sometimes you may import the function, but the name of the function is long, or the name of the function I import addition, I may already have some another function inside my program with the same name as addition. So when I import it here, there would be a conflict between the function I import addition with already function that I already have inside my program. So this way, to prevent this kind of conflict, we rename the function as we import it. So this is the way to do it. From some module, import addition as add. It means now I rename addition to be just add. So this means that instead for me to use addition, when I use add, it will just be, so you can see when I run add. Now add, I'm using add, it means I'm using add to just like as addition. Yeah. Yeah, so you can see it gave me 10, right? It the same thing. So now we have seen 3 ways to as import module. One way is to import the whole module, import module, import some import module, and now you need to put the name of the module before you access anything. Or you can import the function or object directly using from some module, import, you spare the name, and now here you don't need to put the name of the module, or you can rename it, or you can use something called we can use this import, or we can say from some module import. We can put here import star. So you can see here I said from module import addition. I only import addition, but inside my my module I have multiplication, I have pi. So if you want to import everything so that it will be available in your disk, you can use this from some module import star. This means that everything is now available inside your environment, but this is bad practice. That is not normally recommended. So here from some module import everything, it means my function mul Can you see mul? It's now available. I can run it. I can use it. So I can say here mul. I can put 2 arguments, 2 and 3, right? So now when I run this one, it will can you see the multiplication? So you can see here I didn't even import mul, because using @ star means import everything. Yeah, so that is how to import everything from a module. I don't know, any question about module and importing module? Any question? You may already know this, but we are just recapping them just to and for the purpose of people that don't know this. Yeah, any question how we can import module and use them? Any question? Noor, any question, Noor? No question. Okay, let's move on. So these are some of the stuff we already know. We may not need to know them. Okay, these are basic Python. We already know these operators, but these are some of the stuff here. Let's look at them. We have a list here. I have a list here called A. We have 1, 2, 4 here. This is a list, right? So there are what you call membership operator in Python. Membership operator. So let's add them. I don't know why my simple stuff is taking a long time. I don't know what is happening. Okay, so let me just quickly go through them. So here, for example, I have A, I have a list called A, and now I have a list B. Now, A is B, is trying to see whether A is B or they're equivalent, or A is not C. This is trying to see whether they are not equal. So these are keywords that can be used to check if something they are equal or they are not equal. We have what is called mutable and mutable objects in Python. So mutable object, they are Python object that we can change their stuff, right? So for example, this is a list, right? Now we can append something in this list, that is to add something. So this append is a method that can be used to add. So it means list is called mutable, but tuple is not a mutable. Tuple is not a mutable. So there are many other things with unmutable object that we so you can see this is an error. So that is called mutable and mutable object. We already know that as well. Yeah. What is the time? Oh, we have 6 minutes to go. This is a string. We all know string. One way to assign a string. This is multiline string. So you can see here, I want to assign string in one line. I just use I assign it, but when you want to assign string to multiple line, you can use triple quote. Can you see triple quote? But when I want to assign a string in one line, what I can do is just like I can say C equals to this is good, right? So, but what about your string is large enough that can cover multiple line? You can use triple quote. That is it. Yeah. So there are many methods as well regarding to string object. So this is a replace method, an example. So for example, here, this is a string. This is A, I have A here. So this is, okay. This is something that they want to show. String is immutable as well. So tuple and strings are immutable. So here, you remember here, we want to change the position of the object 10 to be, for example, F, then you cannot do that because string is immutable. But we can use what is called replace. So you can replace here, we have a keyword string. You can use a function called replace with something. You can replace this with this. So there are many methods related to that, and we will become familiar as we practice. Yeah, you can see the difference, and that is what is called combustion of Python object. So here I have A equals to 5.6 is double, but to convert double to string, I can use string here, which will convert it to string. This we have called typecasting, stuff like that. If you read the chapter, there are a lot of that. Yeah. Okay. One good thing is string manipulation. So string manipulation, this is it. So here I have string manipulation allow us to work with string as if they are variables. So here I have age equals 32, but there is what you call F string formatting. Here I have F. Now I can use this what do you call it? Square bracket to impute the age, even if it is inside string. But here is F, but I have this. So here, when I use this will actually print the variable, and my age is 32. This is called F string formatting. There is a previous Python stuff called format string, which is not widely used in use. F string is being used now, but also in F string, there is what we call you can format the output of F string. Now look at it here. I have a price called 32 point dot dot dot, right? But I want to format the output of price to be 2 significant digit. Now I use F. The price is, I put the price, which is the per, but I want the output to be 2 significant digit. Then you can put colon dot 2F, dot 2F, colon dot 2F. You can see it. This is how you write it. You put the variable